Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive. As usual, I'm Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus. And with me, you have Terry-Ann and Maureen, who will introduce themselves to you now.
Hi, I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus. Welcome.
And I am Maureen Joanne Gwen, the add-on to the dynamic duo. Welcome.
Well, ladies, we just celebrated Mother's Day. And, we thought it would be really nice to pay tribute to the mothers on the third act stage, which includes all three of us. So this chat will be about how we feel being a mother on the third act stage, in some cases being a grandmother. So our discussion or conversation, I should say, this evening will be all about motherhood on the third act stage. Okay? Yes, so let's start. So let me see. For me, motherhood on the third act stage, what's the difference? So when we say the third act stage, we are looking at, as we say, this is 5.8 year life, 50 up. What will have been the difference for me with motherhood? Okay, I have 2 daughters and I now have 2 grandchildren. I think there is a difference in how I see motherhood when you have adult children to when they are much younger. The joys, let me talk about that being very happy as a mother on the third act stage. Not that I wasn't happy before, but what brought me a special joy, I would say seeing my daughters reach that stage of life. They're all, but right now, 40 plus. So, seeing that the values, a lot of what I imparted in them, the values, I would say, how they handle life. Let me put it this way. How they handle life, both the challenges, the successes, motherhood for them. I'm very proud of that. And I believe it had a lot to do with me. Let me blow my trumpet here. I really believe it had a lot to do with, I would say, I led by example, and right throughout my period of motherhood, on the third act stage, I have been a single mother, a single parent, as you say. And while I saw that as, well, when I look back, I wouldn't use the word challenging. Then I would have said it was, if somebody had asked me, I would have said it's a bit challenging because I had all to make all the decisions. I was the breadwinner. I was responsible for ensuring that my family lived a quality life. And I believe what I would have seen as challenges, or what they may have seen as maybe having to go through some hardship, helped them in making their decisions and being, as I see them, as successful at this stage. So I think my mothering skills, if there is such a thing, Maureen, has mothering skills. Um, I see it manifested in the things that they do. All right. So that's how so I'm happy. I have no regrets about how I'm still the action I'm still taking as a mother. But what is happening for me, I have to recognize, or I have recognized that I am now dealing with adults, and I had to learn to let go. So normally a motherly instinct is for me is to control. So I could have been seen as a controlling mother. I remember my younger daughter in disciplining her in some situation, and she told me she find I treat them like if they're in regiment. I always have a list of rules and a list of, I am really, and looking back, yeah, because I felt being a single mother, I had to really be a disciplinarian. If I have to maintain the control of things being done in a certain way for me to get by. Understand? Because I would be working in the nature of my job at the time. I had outside on the field working long hours, etc. And I needed my children to be extremely disciplined. So looking back now, I was like that. I had to realize that, hey, they no longer have this kind of control. Release that control. And when I may not always like the things that I may see, even the way they may be bringing up their children, I have to shut up. I have to learn to observe and trust that the values I imparted, the lessons that I taught them, that they know what they're doing at the times they're in, and I have to learn to let go and trust. That for me, I would put it as a bit challenging is not a word, I have to humble myself if I think that's how I could put it. I have to be humble. I For me, this stage of motherhood is one that I have to step back and watch look how I say, look from the outside in, you know. But I'm good with, I have learned that over the years. I wasn't that good at it. So that part, I will say, was a big difference for me. Um, so I have learned more as a mother, humility, gratitude, non-judgment. And I just want to close my little, what I'm sharing here now is that, so on Sunday, of course, Mother's Day, I decided to have a family brunch. And I am accustomed for years with our family, with my mother, every year we would all go down there with the grands and be by my mother, and everybody carry a dish. And that's how we know it. I recognize that that was then. Now the younger mothers, well, in my case, ain't making nothing. They didn't have time. That's not their thing. So recognizing that, I decided, why should I ask them to do something I know they would be happy doing? Everybody different. My daughters not wouldn't be happy doing that. And if I really want to come and enjoy, I should create a environment where we will all be happy. So what I did is decided, you know what, let me have a brunch so they will be more comfortable at that time because they may have somewhere to go by their in-laws after. And a brunch where I have it catered. But what I did do is ask them to contribute, and not that as a mother, I ain't doing everything too. And they were happy to do that. So they were very happy to do that. And it turned out very, very nice. Nobody was sulking or saying they're tired. Nobody complaining about how the meal was or anything like that. And that is something I did very consciously because I didn't want the complaints and the being tired and they didn't need to do that and all that. So I didn't give them create a space for excuse, right? And so that is a lesson I have learned as a mother dealing with adult children who have their own lives to let go, to empathize, understanding that they're going through stress too in their lives, and to just embrace the positives that having them there with me in good health with the grands, and to really appreciate a family unit that may not be the ideal for others or may not be how I grew up with our family unit, but it is still a family unit that I appreciate, you know? So that's in a nutshell for now. That's what motherhood on this that stage means to me. Yeah. So any one of you all to share how you see motherhood on to that stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would start and when I think motherhood, people talk about motherhood, and it is when I went to church on Sunday morning, the father talked about we bring life into this world and we shape the world and we do all these kinds of things. And I'm there praying, and I think it is true, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with motherhood. And I am realizing as I get older that I probably never took this responsibility very, very seriously. Not that I am an irresponsible person, but I've never consciously said, all right, I am a mother and this is what I shape and this is what I do and this is how it is to happen. And so I have always approached my children as individuals. And it's to the extent sometimes I have to, for those who know me, my firstborn has a disability. And sometimes I am reminded that my firstborn has a disability because I see no difference. You grow up in the same way, rough and tumble and so on. So even when I think of when they were children, and of course the second one is 7 years apart and a totally different character of a person. So you raise children, and I don't know that there was any conscious difference. And now I am the mother of two adult sons who I believe have placed themselves in a way where they are well poised to create their futures and create a future that they want. What role have I played in that? I think the example that they would have seen in our home between their father and myself would be people who worked very hard but also had a lot of fun and who never forgot what the main responsibility was. I think they grew up in a home that showed respect, showed consideration for others. And one of the things that I can say, as I took a different approach to Mother's Day this year. As everyone knows, they are individuals, they'll do what they do, and I am a very particular lady, and I would normally organize it as I would want it, and they cover the bill, and I had a great Mother's Day. But this year, I decided I just wanted to chill, and I just accepted whatever came my way as the best of what they do. And in doing that, it was so great to see their character come out in how they chose to honor me for Mother's Day. And in it, I saw how much of me they had in them, how much of their dad they had in them, how much of their grandparents they had in them, how much of the community they had in them. So the youngest has a thing for food like me. So his thing was to curate my breakfast. And so he came to me, I'm not asking you what you want, I just want to know like what you feel like having. And when he presented me with my breakfast, I saw that attention to considering other people. And I felt so proud because, they say children learn what they live and not what you say. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, you're set to, so I don't have to fuss. I'm not fussing. He okay. And my oldest, he took charge of coordinating the lunch, but he make sure to make arrangements for the grandfather and for getting people there and making sure that the family was intact. And that's another passion of mine. And also, yeah, where you don't live in a vacuum, you live in a community of people. And though it was small, he made sure that he got his granddad and he got Norman, brought them there, and they were comfortable. And he assumed sort of the host of the event. And I am just drifting in and out, like, I am. And
Yeah.
I again looked at him and thought, they okay, you got the satisfaction of being able to see them as adults taking responsibility for something. Now there's no big ceremony, no big la di da. So is just all right. What is in you comes out. Nobody asked you for it. You didn't have to put on a performance because it was not a big event. It was just our family. And so for me, this third act parent, this third act mother feels that I can sit back and I could say, you do good, girl. Because the day allowed me to see the character of my children as adults when given the option of choosing how they wanted to celebrate Mother's Day, you know? And after all the lunch, and it was a very nice lunch. Lunch had courses, lunch had courses. And my breakfast, yes, it arrived at 1:30 in the evening, but it's okay. It was phenomenal. And lunch was served later on. And when I got decided I'd had enough of socializing, I just want to be by myself, I went and started to look at old NPR videos on TV, and they left me alone. And they went ahead with the festivities, my son and their father, having a ball. And I am doing what I do. And what I appreciated about that is, and I think it is something that is valuable for me on the third act stage, is that we are all ready to, we can stand on our own feet. And I don't, I can detach. I don't have tentacles that I am having difficulty withdrawing. And that was a good feeling for me for Mother's Day. So, I feel that I can go ahead on this third act with my life because the responsibilities I had raising children, they're adults, they can handle themselves. And if what I want to do doesn't involve them or can't involve them, it's not a problem. Nobody will suffer as a result, you know? So I don't know if it will change when I have grandchildren, if that happens, but and on that basis, I want to take an opportunity, Maureen, before we hand over, to congratulate you, the newest grandmom on the block. So,
Glam. Get it correct. Get it together. Glam. Glam ma. That's correct. Yes.
how was your
Thank
Mother's
you.
Day?
Thank you both. Yes. Well, I had a very quiet Mother's Day, but if we're talking about mothering, I have one son, and yes, you're correct. 2 days ago, his fiance and himself, they had their first child, a little girl. And that was excitement. Well, excitement for them, but for me, it was the realization that I always felt he was an adult, but now for sure, I have come to recognize that he will have to do adulting, and maybe some of the things that I would have, and the village, because I always say with my son, I didn't raise him alone. He had a father who was very present in his life, as well as on my side of the family. My mother, I would say, was his mother, because you would think that we were brother and sister because my mother took charge of everybody and everything. To the point where when he went to the US to study, he lived with her. So she was the one who, at 17, would have taught the cooking and the cleaning and the organization and all of those things. And that's why I'll never forget my mother. And like on Mother's Day in particular, I remember her and I thank her a lot for everything that she has encoded in all of our lives. Yeah, but it's specifically in my son's life, because I see her through him and his behavior and his actions, his choices, his decisions. It's not me. It's not me, it's her, and that's okay too. That's all right too, because I remember my mother always used to tell me, everybody could have children, but everybody's not a mother. And even to be a mother, we mother in different ways and we nurture in different ways, and there's no manual. So there's nobody to tell us whether we've done it right or wrong. We just have to pray that what we've encoded would benefit them as they move along in their lives. So yeah, I looked at my granddaughter and I said, well, you're on a journey there with your father and your mother, and they now will, a lot of these things that I would have impressed upon Joel, that he may have felt that it was, oh my God, you over the top. Because like I asked him the other day too, I said, what were some of the kind of things that I did that you couldn't stomach? He said, well, I never used to be able to have any sleepovers. I said, like for example, when you say that, why you thought that I would do that? He said, well, you didn't want me to have a good time with my friend. I said, okay, but now as an adult, why do you think I did that? He said, from the position of safety. Yeah, I had responsibility and I felt that, to be safe, your friends could all come, but, there are certain boundaries and that kind of thing. So I'm glad too that I reflected on that yesterday, how it is important to be here and be present because there's so many of my friends' children, they are not here. Their mothers are not here. Their parents are not here. And they too reflected on what their parents encoded in their lives, but they're not here to see them, how they grew, their children, the experiences they're now having. And I thank God for that in a real sense. And I ask him, spare me, and make sure that I maintain my faculties so that I could take care of myself, not of him, because I am no longer surprised or blindsided by any of the decisions that he would make. I trust that, the decisions are the right one for him. And if they're not, then he will face those consequences and learn as a result of the experience. So, like you, Terrian, I move away from being the Miss Fix-It because I was a person like that. I used to organize everything, put everything in place, everything had a structure. Because I mean, I worked for jobs at one point. So, Chalfa, you know about that too. But
Yeah.
luckily, we came out of Donald Hill, we had a village. And we all
Okay.
looked after each other's children. None of them, we looked at them and thought, well, their names mattered or who they belonged to. Even the people in the community, their children became part of our community as well.
Mhm.
They lived with our children, they grew with our children. We had that kind of mindset, and that's the mindset that was encoded in our children. So that I look at the parenting and I said, I firmly believe that children need a village and they need a village where there's difference and they need a village also where things don't always go right. So they get to learn about disappointment and they get to be able to hone in on their emotional regulations and realize that, loss will come and grief will come and, how they'll be able to navigate those spaces as well as not all good times and happy cherry Mary and kumbaya, So that's my thing, the way I parented my son. I parented along the lines that um, you didn't belong to me. You are a gift, and God asked me to be able to guide you. And one day, either you release me or I release you, but whoever remains has to continue. And a lot of the foundation that has been shared by all the people who you've met in your lives would be able to help you to be the best person that you could be. So those are the kinds of reflection, because my son and I are not together. I will see him at the end of the month. Um, and those were the kinds of reflections that came upon me after, of course, church too and listening, the same kind of sermon about your role as a mother.
Yeah.
And I say it all the time. I said, I can't look at my son and say that he's my son. He's a child of the universe.
Mhm.
So many other people have encoded different things in him, and some of which I did not approve, but it was not about me. And today, now that he is 42 years old, I am happy that he has those kinds of options which would allow him to make appropriate decisions for himself because I am no longer his guide.
Yeah.
I am the consort. I am when all else fail, I am, first you say Maureen, ting, and based on the tone of my voice, say, well, mommy, what do you think?
Yeah.
I really don't have many thoughts left for you. I can tell you what my thoughts are for me, right? And we could discuss from there. So that was my whole thinking about mothering on the third act stage. I am going to be working on bringing warmth into my son and my granddaughter and this little family that he is now bringing warmth into their lives. I am not going to be the leader of anything. I am going to be taking care of me and ensuring that I will not become a dependent.
Yeah.
And maybe one time I may have to, but at least he will be able to advocate for me so that he doesn't see me as a stress, but he sees life and its continuity and knowing that this is just another element of life and he will support me until I am no more. Yeah?
Maureen,
Yes.
thanks for all of all these stories. I'm glad each of us able to share because as you realize, we each have different
Yeah.
stories, But what came to me as you were speaking to, you know, as a mother, the eldest, what you call the matriarch. People say,
Yeah.
oh, um, that's the matriarch of the family. When they say that, to me, it comes across as you are the mother of everybody. You are the one they coming um to solve the issues, to and have some sort of input in the various lives, regardless of who married, who are family, who not married. How would you? Is that how should I put it? Is that a very heavy responsibility? Being a matriarch, you're actually being the mother of everybody at that stage
Yeah.
because you are at a later stage there. You're actually only
Yeah.
to that stage. How you view that? The
Yeah.
role of a matriarch or the
Yeah.
responsibility of a
Yeah.
matriarch.
Yeah. I feel that it is an ominous responsibility and it is one that I embraced in the earlier years of my life because I was a people pleaser. I had a lot
Mm.
of emotional challenges. And I want to say hard. People like to talk about hard, but as far as I'm concerned in this life, there are certain things that remain unresolved, and once you're alive, you're working on them. I think part of the struggle that I had then was ensuring that I had a role and I fit somewhere. So I
Mm.
used to ensure that I was the person who would always fix and find solutions to other people's problems. Part of the relearning at this stage, and it was very difficult for a number of people, and it has become to the point where people say that I have changed. That was an eye opener because if you ask, like, when you say I've changed, what do you mean? Because as far as I'm concerned, I haven't changed. I'm the same person. But what has changed is the way I engage with my will, and also the fact that I know it's a complete sentence, and even more than that, that I can now start to work on my inner self as opposed to the acting for the will and the pretending and the ensuring that everybody else is happy and comfortable and I am self-sacrificing or dying inside.
Yeah.
So, in this stage, that those are the kinds of things that I am working on. I am actually working on things like saying no. I am working on um putting it back in people's corner and say, well, if I were not here, how would you manage that? Or pretend that I'm not even here anymore. And people are like, well, what do you mean? You're sick? You this? I said, but no, because for once, what I'm trying to do is to get people to see me for me and not see me as a fixer for them or a caretaker of them. So even like a lot of friends and stuff, when they said I had a grandchild, it's saying, well, what are you doing here? And that was kind of like, what do you mean, what I doing here? The young people have to get a rhythm and organize themselves and decide how they want to raise their child. When I get there, if they ask for my support, I am in a position so to do, I shall, but I must have the option to be able to say, no, that is not for me. That don't fall on. But you can't do that. People say that kind of thing, but you can't do that. They need you. No, nobody needs me. I need me. I
Yeah.
need me. So I I'm starting to just throw off all of the responsibilities and ownerships and actually even speaking up for myself. That was a thing I never did either. I would never tell people exactly how I feel about anything. I would just make it happen and I'll grumble behind the scenes or I'll cry or I'll fuss or I'll say that people are taking advantage of me, but they're not. I am making myself available, accessible. I am doing what they want, and to the point where it would sometimes be a challenge because when I need something and people tell me no, I would then get very upset and say, but I did for everybody and I given everybody and I
Right.
don't have
Mhm.
anything as a result of being there and whatever. No, I need something. Everybody's saying no, they are correct to say no.
Yeah.
Nobody asked me to, I chose to. And that's a hard learning lesson at this stage because a lot of people will be very afraid of losing their village. But what
Yeah.
I'm afraid of now is losing me
Mm-hmm.
because I am now trying to figure out who I am and not the who I am based on all the labels that I had before.
Yeah.
Who I am as a person. Because I'll tell you, I struggle with really knowing who I am because I'm defined by everybody else and not understanding who I am supposed to be and what I would like to do. So I spend a lot of time. That's why I encourage the journaling and the conversations and the prayer and meditation, all of those kinds of things. But really, I have um, made a strong declaration and whoever begs lose, but I've said it to the people who are in my space and who come to me for any kind of support or whatever. You fix it. You find a solution because it's not that I'm not able to. It's that I am not willing to and I do not want to. And I will no longer make myself accessible and available to do that aspect of the job.
Yeah. Because Marina found too, and Terry on here, that many of us get so caught up in terms of motherhood,
Yeah,
that we all our whole everything that we do is for the children and the grandchildren, and then depending on where we at in terms of the family line, we tend also to take the responsibility of just let me just others. Yeah, we take the responsibility. Sorry, just stop this for me, please. Let me just.
Okay.
Hello, my apologies. I do go back. Something I was saying. I was trying to go back to the question what I was saying. Um, yes, so I have found when we get caught up, of those of us who get caught up in over the years, our siblings, our family members look up to us. We are the one. that they look up to, saying that, oh, we are the ones taking responsibilities, we to make the decision and all that. And our whole life, that's what we do. And ignore our happiness ourselves. We don't even think of who we are. And we reach a stage on the third act stage, especially if you higher up on the third act stage, and I'm saying higher up, so you cross the 60s, you pass that 10-year grace period, so you're in the 70s, and you realize that the same niece, nephew, daughter, son, whoever you thought was dependent on you, and you spend all your time with mothering, as we say, go on their way, and may only need you, come to you when they need something from you, but not really thinking of your happiness. And I want to think that is our fault in not letting them know that our needs then, we always say about their needs and not our own needs. So at this stage, many of us could have that regret, and you look back and you're looking for that comfort, someone to come and hold your hand, talk to you, and this sort of thing as you grow old. And you may be telling yourself that, they're so ungrateful, nobody care about me, and you're going in that self-pity state of mind. And, you may worry that as you get a little older again, they have the thing, they'll just put you in a corner and leave you alone. It is really time, and I say this is about time for us to look within and start to understand why we need to release, and we have to stop living thinking that if we don't give that advice, if we don't be part of their lives, it will fall apart.
Yeah.
And allow them to live their life. You're talking about adults here, and focus on what we want, because many times I listen to friends or in a conversation, and we hear about what the children think and the grandchildren, and why they have to help out, and they have to give money, and they have all they don't have, we tend to self-sacrifice. So we are the ones who give the money from whether it's from your pension. We are the ones that saying you feel sorry because they have to work late, and all these things. And yet still we're not saying, hey, what about our happiness? Those were the times we did that. Let's look at what we could do for ourselves. And I'm just saying this too. I believe the best gift, well, for me, I could give myself. And if you want to say he as a mother, but I will just say me, is to just learn to let go and focus on our happiness, and trust that what we did before, the advice we would have given, the support we would have given, the way we would have, the lessons that we would have taught them, that we did our best and let them be and focus on us. So I just wanted to make that statement. So Tariana, I don't know how you feel about that.
I am laughing a bit because anytime I hear the word matriarchy and patriarchy, I get images that are so negative. None of them have ever been attractive to me. I
Yeah,
don't know a matriarchal figure in my life that I've ever wanted to manipulate, to
to
mirror.
emulate. Yeah.
I think that whole story about the matriarch and the this and the that is a strategy to manipulate people to stay relevant in their lives and get control and guilt them into minding you until you're small. I haven't met a matriarch that proved that assumption wrong. I've never met one.
Mm-hmm.
And poor oldest child would drop on that person, or in the family, whoever would take it. And the point you made, Maureen, very often, yes, it filled a need in people. The role is attractive because it gives you relevance, it gives you a purpose, it gives you a sensation of being needed. And I think I could understand in olden days when everybody's small and people didn't really think way into the future. And because generations before, I mean, people lived through the responsibility. Nobody abandoned the matriarch. And the patriarch, being a man,
Yeah.
was so dominant. You respected the patriarch, and the patriarch was easy. He was easy. He had
Yeah.
all the resources. And the matriarch, because she didn't have resources, had to just use love and emotion and guilt to keep people at her side. And I think a lot of the stress we see with people who are having difficulty with motherhood for adult children is where the strategy is turning out to be fraying and frazzling and just not
Mm-hmm.
into being because the the things that kept them stuck to you, that tradition and that honor and stuff like that, those don't hold value in the way they don't hold value today in the way that it did in the past. And I think that is a reality that we must face squarely and say the strategy is irrelevant again. It dead. It might have been relevant 40 years ago when the children were children and you looked at your grandparents and great grandparents and said, well, it worked for them, it might work for me. Let me start to work it
Yeah.
now. And I use myself and my family as an example. And again, my mother, I think, shed that role that she was an only child. I don't know matriarchy to come here. And even as she raised us, um, there was no agenda of obligation to grandparents. I think that's how you did it. You must do this to your grandmother. You always had this
Yeah.
must. There was no must in my life. There was, this is it. So you look forward to going and spend Sunday evening with Granny because you're getting the sugar cake and the cookies and so it wasn't no obligation. And you did what you had to do to be an independent person. Independent meaning that you not that you don't care about your people, but you can take care of yourself and you are not burdened on your parents. My
Yeah.
father, however, because he was an only spoiled child, assumed without checking at all that patriarchy would continue. And poor soul, he ended up with me because my other two siblings, my sisters, live abroad. So, hello, distance, cut that cord. And my brother, who carried that patriarchy model because he was a spoiled son, he died. And I just simply said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
You're not senile, you have your resources. I will manage your life. I will love you as a daughter, but I am not your tool. And that was very, very clear. And and so there's obligation to love your father, but there's no obligation to love in spite of everything and at risk to me. And he is still resisting and at every turn fighting. But like the young people say to many of our parents, us as parents, when they look at you and say, you need to chill, just chill. It's not going to happen. That emotional game that you're playing on me here, it's not working.
Yeah.
I'll just walk away from you. Um, I just said no to my father. I said, you don't need X, and I don't have the time now to do what you want me to do, but I'll get around to it. Or I don't think what you're asking for is important enough for my time, but you can find an alternative. And I think for many of us who see people who break away from matriarchy and enjoy life as a result, not break away from matriarchy and are evil and cruel to parents. There's a
Yeah.
difference. Who break away from matriarchy as a responsible burden and they enjoy life. A lot of us who can't or who don't have the confidence to do that, they continue complaining and they continue trying to find ways to keep pulling you back. The emotional and mental manipulation. But I think that takes too much energy and it takes a lot away from living in the present, which is where joy lives. Because when you use all your time trying to figure out how to get this one to stay at my side, you're living in the past because you're dragging up history, and you're living in the future because you're trying to create
Make them,
some kind of
yeah,
protection for yourself, and no energy is spent in just being today. And that child is very much in the present, living their life, taking advantage of all the privileges you're throwing on them, hoping to use
Yeah.
that to bribe them. And so when I hear the words matriarchy and patriarchy, I hope that our generation is the last generation to be into that kind of thing and to use the gift and beauty of motherhood as a tool to manipulate people like that. You know,
yeah,
so and I suppose that is why I look at my children. They know what they do it on their time. I didn't mind. Breakfast was served at 1:30 by Gap, and I got a snack or something, and I was really, really cool, you know. And I think we need to look at our children through eyes of love and see what we created. As I go back to what my priest was saying, what we created, the values is what kind of people are they? Not what kind of person is this to in service of me. Because a lot of time we judge our children based on what they could do for me. I think that is manipulated. But if we just look at them and see how are they with their children, how are they with their friends, how are they in the home, how are they in their work environments, are they contributing to society? We'd be pretty proud of ourselves and we'll see that the ultimate success is they are functional adults and we have nothing to do with their lives right now, but we had everything to do with causing them to be that independent adult. And if that's the kind of matriarch I am, not one
Yeah.
that looking for benefits. I really do hope that a lot of us could step away from ourselves a little bit and appreciate that those years of child raising and sacrifice and wearing is all come to something great. And nobody, it's paid in full. There's no outstanding on that debt. There's no debt.
Yeah.
It's paid in full. So just be happy and go on and have a great life, you know. So I always laugh when I hear the term matriarch. And people.
yeah,
I think one of there out of the both discussions that you all were sharing, and this is something that I have been working on as well. In the third act, when you look at mothering, there are two things that always that really come forward, and you know, I kind of like reframed a lot. One is expectations, and the second one is boundaries.
yeah,
Because, you know, and one of the things I recognized when life quieted down and all the labels fell off, I didn't get rid of them. People took them, they fell off. Yeah. So I was just now naked. It wasn't that got rid of them. And that's something too that people have to recognize. There's a difference between preparing to do something and for you to just find yourself on a stage, unprepared, and asked to now continue to function in your life, right? Because it was very easy for me to then throw myself at the mercy of my son and pretend to be a victim and give him a whole different set of struggles. And knowing the child that I have, he would have taken those struggles up. He would complain in his head, he would grumble, but he would not do it.
They love
Yeah,
you
because
too
he
much.
understood
They love you
exactly.
too much. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I want to talk about expectations and boundaries because even up reflecting on my life, I recognize that there were aspects of it where I grew old, but I never grew up. Because there were certain aspects of me that were never nurtured.
Yep.
Somehow they just jump over. And the 20s, 30s, 40s, and while I could see myself being encoded in other people's lives in terms of what they took, what I offered, or what I made available, or what they needed. I recognized that there were gaps and severe gaps in terms of my growth and development, and also my ability to now nurture me. And as you talk about happiness, even define what happiness looks like in this third stage without having other people to determine, well, yeah, this is what she should or ought to, or what happiness should look like. So the first thing is about expectations. And that was something that I struggled with because the mold that I came out of, I was definitely nurtured that there were certain expectations, and I could say I was a good child. I did as I was told to the death and buried it. Yeah. Inclusive of even a lot of the resources that I need now for myself, financially and emotionally, they're not there because I gave it to everybody who's no longer here or who grew and forget me and leave me and they call, on occasion or whatever. The other thing is the boundaries as well. I am now learning to recognize that boundaries don't go one way. Boundaries go 2 ways and 3 ways and 10 ways so that I no longer put my son in a position where, well, he has to respect me and my boundaries or my way and instead, I recognize that slow your ride, Maureen, stay in your lane, speak when you're spoken to, answer when you're called, but fill your cup with other things that will have you so busy that your son will watch you and say, but listen, I was trying to get in touch with you, we're going on with you, what's happening here? Everything is okay. And I mean, I've started to work on that so well that many times my son tracks me through the iPhone. He say, but where you going? I see you here, see you there. Wait, what? You look at the time. I thought you was coming home. I might start coming home. And then he said, what? Wait, you going somewhere? I'll say later. Yeah. Yeah. I'll check it when I get home. That didn't just come overnight. I made a conscious decision recognizing that I have rights, I have privileges, he has rights, he has privileges, and we're not entwined in that way anymore.
Yeah.
We are still connected, but we are no longer entwined. And that is Jennifer, that's the problem with a lot of adults and a lot of parents, a lot of mothers in the third act. It's this kind of entanglement and all this kind of geriatric, meanderings because, you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, you don't like what you see, fix it, right? Every week I go to the hairdresser, every month I get the massage, every 2 weeks I get my pedicure and I just met somebody who doing reflexology. I went, right? So, I mean, you have to make those conscious decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't need anybody's permission. So I say that this is what I have done or I am doing, and I'm not, and I'm saying it out of conversation, not
Yeah.
looking for approval, not looking. I really don't care because you don't care. I know you don't care. When you make a decision, what you want to do, you tell me. You don't ask me.
Yeah.
So in the same way, I am finally, getting my autonomy where it's not it's and like I hear people at our age say, you're showing off, or well, you see me, I can't do that now because them children will think and
Yeah.
how it if anything today, I hope that this Mother's Day and moving forward, we break the fetters of those kinds of entanglements. To me, I call it bewitching. Because I realized my mother was real bewitching.
Yeah.
Yeah. She definitely had a one. You understand? Because she, besides the look and the thing, it's just the innuendos and the kind of, you did that? you know, you're like,
You know,
call to
Yeah.
attention.
it's funny because we have a few minutes again, and it goes to
Mhm.
mind. We are the only animal, and we are animals. We're all in the animal kingdom. If you go back to the
Yeah.
original, we are the only animal that doesn't respect that there is a time when the child leaves the nest. You
Yes.
go on with your life until you
Yes.
can't go on with your life.
Yes.
And it is always the mother that,
Snatch
Yeah.
your back.
you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
every animal instinctively knows they prepare their child for independence. They'll teach it to fly, teach it to feed, teach it to hunt, and then some animals just walk away and leave them. And others, if you stay in too
Mhm.
long, they attack you and they hurt you so that you go.
Yes.
We are the
Yeah.
only ones, and it's all self-interest. Yeah.
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 Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And many more. And happy Mother's Day to the point of freedom and emancipation
Oh,
and
yes.
Absolutely.
growth and development and celebrating you and your accomplishments, your achievements, but also the future that you have for yourself, which is just an open-ended page that you could write your narratives and you could live your experiences.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Based on that, I
Marina,
will
just
say
want to
one
endorse
thing.
that celebrating you. That is so important.
I think I will leave a piece of empathy for those who have spent 30, 40, 50, 60 years building up this dependency syndrome in children to now realize that you've been fooled. They always knew the game and they decided they're not playing anymore.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
hard. We could say find your happiness and so on, and we know it is hard because you have to grieve that disappointment. But
Yeah.
it's such a happy state to be in as an independent mother that I think the the hardship would look like nothing once you get past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So
The
great.
hardship would look
Well,
like a benefit. That's how it would look. It would look like a benefit because free at last, thank God I'm free at last. So it would certainly look like a benefit.
And they're doing well. They're doing
And it,
well. You did that.
fantastic, fantastic. Yeah,
You did
there you
that.
go. There you go. And any offspring they have doing just as well too, because they have responsibility to make
everybody.
that happen. Yeah. So
Definitely.
So just enjoy motherhood on the third act stage. Celebrate your life. Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Take care. Bye
Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
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 50 plus Plus tribe and followers from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.